This is Chats with Ryan Trainer from Tassie Bushranger and
PJ from Addicted to Grow, and welcome.
How we going tonight, PJ?
Good, mate. How's things? How's things with you, Ryan?
Yeah, not too bad. Starting to get a bit sick of being stuck at home, but it's what it is.
I guess this is really going to bring out a new level of human. So I guess one of the things that I find really interesting is continuously every day thinking about how I can create something new.
I went into it really strong mindset, started off really strong, but it's starting to test me a little bit now. And had a bit of a hard week this week with my wife's grandmother passing away in a nursing home. So there was the challenge of I actually had to make 3 phone calls just to get her dad to be able to go in to say goodbye. And eventually managed to get her in on the last day as well. But it was the first real challenge we've had, I guess, the first issue that's been created by it. And then the funeral, there was only the 10 people allowed at the funeral. And luckily it was at the grave site. So the rest of us were able to be there, but stand back. But yeah, it was sort of the first heavy thing that we've been affected by the virus. So yeah, a bit of a tough week for her and her family.
Mate, I just really want to send my condolences and my prayers and thoughts to you and your family and your wife, and especially her family. And there's one thing that I purely am just going to put on the table for you right here, right now, is that I'm a grief and bereavement counsellor. So if you ever need it, I want you to understand that I'll be there for you and your family.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, I'll certainly mention it to her and her family. Yeah, it was really good. Our daughter she managed to meet our daughter, the only grandparent we had left. So it was good that they met. It's just a shame she passed away when things were so tough. But again, It is what it is. Yeah. So how's your week been?
That's really special in a lot of ways as well. So it's good to hear. It's good to hear that. It's good to hear that, to keep that memory ongoing now. My week's been just completely like really busy. I've been setting up a new group, and this is purely, like something that I've always wanted to share with you. And when the time's ready for you, I've got a group, and I'm helping them. I created this growth matrix system. The growth matrix system is based on mindset and coaching, but the difference is that because I've got a lot of information, what I'm doing is I'm actually mentoring people to get them to a place where they want to be, which means I've done what they want to achieve. And now I'm just going to exercise my processes to them so that they can start exercising them for themselves. So, it's a really, I guess you would call it, it's like a matrix group. So there's just at the moment, there's 10 of us. And you've probably been seeing a couple of photos that I've put up on Instagram. But the main thing is that if someone wants to achieve something, like I've got the formulas, I've done so much work over my career and I'm putting all these formulas together of things that work here and pull it out there and pull this and pull this. And what I'm doing is now I've put together all these formulas of strategies and combinations of formulas that work to get an outcome. So it doesn't matter what you want to achieve. The whole idea is that it's outcome based. And I break it down to every strategy with that client one-on-one. So I've been really busy setting that up actually over the last 2 weeks. And it's going really, really well. There's 10 of us. And that's a good little bit of experience that I'm getting under my belt as far as, the information that I know I'm giving at 100%. So these guys are getting, quality, and I'm serving them to the best of my ability. So I'm really happy to see where it goes.
Yeah, cool. So it's all finished, underway now?
Yep, all underway, ready to go. So I've got 1 employee, I've got 1 virtual assistant. So that's an amazing feeling to have someone, I guess, working, sort of under me, I guess. But, we work together. I don't ever feel as if she works under me, because she does all of the admin and I do all of the execution and all the, content creation and stuff. So very exciting. All right. So, let's dig a little bit deep. We know what each other does for business. We enjoy, you know, the two of us and our passion and what we like, and we're very like-minded people. Tell me some of the things that really excite you, or some of the hobbies that you do outside of family. So I know that one of the things, obviously, you know, we're both struggling in our own little ways, that we're starting to get stuck at home, and, you know, that's sort of starting to dig in a little bit more. So let's direct our attention and our focus. What are the hobbies that you like to do outside of family?
So obviously nature's a big passion of mine. Tassie Bushranger, sort of all around that. But then the two other big interests I have would be history, particularly ancient history, up to the creation of guns. I find after that, like, I'm interested in the war side of things,
Yeah.
and more the ancient side. And also I love fantasy. So reading, and I also write quite a bit of fantasy.
Cool.
So yeah, it's sort of all related to that sword and bow sort of combat in both sides of it. I don't so much get on the sci-fi, but I really like the made up stuff. And all three of those interests also relate to my other interest, which is books, which you can see a collection of behind. So I've got over 1,000 books, which are all on the topics of history, natural history, and fantasy. So they're sort of the main things that I focus my time on, which obviously have broad spectrums within them.
Yeah, mate, that's I've always been interested in this, I think it's is it the Civil War? Is that where the ones where they used, you know, cannon bolts, or is that a different era? What eras where they used cannon bolts? And
That would be more the medieval Dark
yeah,
Ages
that's
sort of times.
the one. So that's the one that I'm interested in. So that would really, like, that'd be great one day to have a conversation around the different eras, because that medieval time really lights me up a little bit, actually. So that's pretty cool to know that you actually dig a little bit deeper into it.
Sorry, just going to have to get you to repeat that. You froze.
I was just saying how it's really cool that you really enjoy, the medieval side of. So one of the things that I really like about that is I do enjoy the medieval era. So it's really cool to have that similarity. And one day we'll really have to dig into sharing, you know, what you know about it, because you dig a lot deeper than I do.
So the medieval stuff. I mean, particularly the last few years, I started buying history books from like the tip shop and secondhand places where they were just selling off old history books for $2-3. But obviously, lots of topics when you buy a book, the content can be outdated. But I don't think history. It's been and gone, although people's opinions of it can change, which can be interesting.
Yeah.
But certainly one thing I learned was how little I really do know. And one book in particular was Roman history for a fourth grader from the 50s, I think it was. And what was in there that supposedly a grade 4 would learn on Roman history in a year was more than I'd learned in my up to the end of high school. And just
Wow.
like, the history we learn these days compared to back then, they learned so much more about everything, I guess.
Wow.
That sort of blew my mind a bit.
Mate, that's I just sort of like the awesomest YouTube channel you could start. And that would be to literally sit there for 15 minutes a day and read these books to YouTube.
Yeah. There is some good history stuff on YouTube, but I think lots of it. Young people aren't learning anymore, and something my dad used to say to me, because he's from Ireland, and their schooling then, and I think even now, have a lot more of a focus on history, and particularly that European history, obviously being part of Europe themselves. And he used to always say, "You kids don't learn history like we used to." And I didn't really realize it until I picked up that book that day.
Yeah, that's wow. That just blows me away. Like a million ideas just came to my head about how you know, you could share this on a YouTube channel. You know, like every time I talk to you now, I'm just going to go, hey, Ryan, give me one cool thing about history. Like it just really triggered me to learn from you, because I love history, and I didn't, you know, like, mate, I was terrible at school. I didn't learn it. I learned what I could to get past. But now when I think about it, I just wish that I could learn it all. So you're going to get 1,000,001 questions from me.
Yeah. Yeah, I know how you feel. Certainly at school, I mean, particularly the topics you're not interested in, you sort of don't take in and then wish you did later. Yeah, my wife and I actually went to Italy just over a year ago. And so it was really great to be able to go to these places in Italy where I'd read stuff about. And there's actually a podcast that follows all the emperors of Rome. There's an episode or two on each emperor. And so I was listening to that while we're on the trains and that in Italy. So we'd be on a train and I'd listen about this emperor, and then we'd get to a spot and there would be a building that emperor built. And it's like, oh yeah, I've just been listening about the 20 years of his reign. So it was a really awesome way to do it.
Wow, that's really cool.
So I love Roman history, and we had 2 weeks there and it wasn't nearly enough. I definitely want to get back to Italy one day.
Yeah, good on you, man. That's really awesome. That's really, what a cool way to start to learn and to sort of fit into that space that you really like. So tell me about the fantasy stuff. Like, do you write about it, or do you write about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you draw pictures as well? Like, are you interested in drawing as well?
I haven't done much drawing for a very long time, but here is one of my dwarves from my main book, which is one of my favorite drawings.
Yeah.
I'm not a particularly good drawer,
But
and it's
you're doing
something
well
I haven't
there.
been practicing nearly enough, because obviously it's a very time-consuming thing.
Yeah.
But I try to draw to help my imagination, to help with my writing, if that makes sense. So my writing, I first created the fantasy world that I work on in grade 7. So when I was 13.
Yeah.
And I'm still creating the same fantasy world now. And obviously it's developed a lot as I've gone from being a kid to an adult.
Wow.
But it's got a very few thousand years history, and it's actually a thing they talk about in fantasy writers called world building syndrome. So it's where you get stuck in creating the world and you never really write a book. And that's sort of where I've been a lot. I write little bits and pieces about different characters and bits of history. And I've actually just now in isolation started doing this podcast that helps you write a book, and trying to knuckle down and actually a full story that I can put on the internet for people to read, because currently there's nothing complete enough to share. But in here, there's all sorts, and on my OneDrive, I've got different folders for different cities and countries and races, and just like Word documents that might just have a page information about a different god. I've created over 20 different gods and how they work in with the world and all this. So yeah, it's sort of been a really big thing that I've been doing for about 15 years now.
Wow. I don't even know where to begin to think about that. Like 15 years worth of writing fantasies. Like, mate, that is epic. That really is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
And
really
like,
super proud of
I haven't
you.
been into it solid. I might go a year or two where I write next to nothing. But in my head, even if I haven't written anything for a long time, I'm still trying to piece together how things work in my head.
Oh,
And
man.
I've got a box full of notes where at work I'll think of something and I'll write it on a scrap piece of paper and throw it in there. And then some days I'll just go through and read stuff and be remembering things that I've written and completely forgotten. So yeah, it's taken up a big part of my life, I guess.
Mate, that's really, like, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So obviously, we're gonna piece together this. So give me a insight to what you think about when you're writing. Like, give me What's one of the gods' names, and how does he relate to the world? Just get a snapshot. Give me a snapshot of the way you think, how you think.
So the way the gods relate to the world, the sort of over a few thousand piece part, is basically that there was the gods and they were lending magic to the people and elves and different races. And they didn't like how greedy and powerful they were getting and the way they were using the magic. So they decided to take the magic away from the common people. But one of the gods of darkness actually tricked all the other gods. And in the process of them taking the magic away, he had them locked out of the world. And so they couldn't get back in. And so then there's a 2000 piece part of the history where there's no magic and there's no gods, apart from this one god who's basically brewing up an evil army. And then eventually through process, he gets defeated and the gods get allowed back in and the magic returns. And that's where I'm focusing my writing at the moment, is they haven't had magic for 2000 years, so a very long part of history. And now suddenly magic's reappearing, and how that affects the world is the time period I'm currently working on. Originally, I wanted to write the story of how they got magic back, and it sort of still exists, but I'm now trying to write the stories actually after that fact.
Yeah. Mate, that is awesome. Like, that is just that is awesome, because one of the things that I love doing is I love being okay. So we'll talk about me next week, but one of the things that I love doing is creating as well. So this listening to you, you know, and your thought process on how you created that, and what's going through your head with all your knowledge, it is like, that's really interesting to me. Like, I get that a lot.
Cheers. Yeah.
I really appreciate
Gods and magic and how it works is a very hard thing to do, to sort of work out, well, like, why do people have to do anything if the gods are doing everything? And trying to work out the balance of how that and magic works has certainly taken up a lot of my thought and time with it.
Yeah. In saying that though, I think it's a really cool, like, what an amazing hobby. You've been doing it pretty much for 15 years. And where it's going to evolve into is purely up to your imagination, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously very much my nerdy side of my passion. And I also play a bit of Dungeons and Dragons over the years, which is how the world dragons with it. And then I grew the world from that one A4 page, about 15 A4 pages, but now I actually create them on the computer. But yeah, so the world grew dramatically from there. And now there's about 6 sort of main countries where it happens, but the world expands well out from there.
Mate, one day you'll have to sort of, you know, we'll have to sit and have a couple of coffees or a cup of teas over this one, because that just sounds really exciting, to be honest. Yeah, mate. I think it's a great thing. I think it's an amazing hobby, and you know, like, I can really see, you know, your fantasy books, you know, being on shelves as we grow. I seriously can.
Yeah, it'd be an awesome thing to have happen one day.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously reading fantasy is a big part of that too, because I love it and I love diving into worlds that people have made, and
Yep.
But also and the funny thing in all that is I'm a terrible speller. English was always my worst subject. I can't spell at all well, and my grammar's not great. And that's probably more what I'm working on now as I try to actually write a story. I mean, the spelling's easy now with the computer, but the grammar and the structure of how you actually put a book together rather than just tell a story is what the podcast that I'm listening to that goes with it is really helping me with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, like I always think about, you know, when we talk, there's always reasons why we connect. And one of the biggest ones is I know a lot of book writers. So
Awesome.
I'm always willing to share some names and numbers.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. So, what about yourself outside of the family?
Outside of the family, all right. So before we dig too deep into me, I think what we'll do, like for our purpose tonight, I think we'll leave the story with you and your hobbies outside of the family,
All right.
and
Yeah.
that'll give us a topic for next Wednesday.
Go on to next week.
Yeah, and I think we could spread our wings a little bit
Yeah.
more.
That's a good point.
If you're happy with that, yeah.
Yep. Sounds good.
Sounds brilliant to me. So let's keep this going, and I'll get this recording sorted and send it to you straight away.
Yeah. All right. Awesome, mate. Thanks for having a chat and listening.
Mate, anytime, and I'm looking forward to next Wednesday. And keep this in mind. If once a week's not enough, let me know, and I'm always happy to jump on a weekend.